August 21, 2017. Robert had been looking forward to this day for over a year. As a student of astronomy, he had seen many things, including all the planets except Pluto, several comets, meteor showers, several lunar and partial solar eclipses, but never a total solar eclipse. The day was on his calendar, but health and other concerns made the possibility doubtful. Traveling with Sherry 400 miles south was not going to be as easy as it used to be. Nevertheless, Robert made a projection device to image the solar disk on a sheet of paper in a cardboard box with one side cut out for viewing. He had done this before for other daytime views of the sun. This time, he mounted the box on a tripod for steady imaging. Meanwhile, the days progressed. Sherry had another emergency hospitalization, and the trip to Cousin Billy's seemed uncertain. In Kentucky, Larry and Billy's land lay in the hot, humid climate unchanged, except by their continual care. The 30 acres, mostly wooded, were directly in the path of the upcoming lunar shadow. The clouds came and went. All was ready for the most spectacular celestial event in thousands of years, a direct track of the total eclipse across the breadth of the United States of North America. Would the weather hold? Would one lone cloud be blocking the sun for the few minutes of totality? As Robert had said, nothing man could do would keep the eclipse from happening. The only question is, would anyone see it? Finally, the decision was made. The doctor said that there was no medical reason for Sherry not to make the trip. The only concern was keeping hydrated in the 90-plus degree weather. The trip was broken into 2 days for convenience and ease. Robert thought that if the first day was too hard on Sherry, they could return and watch another partial eclipse from their home in Michigan. However, we proceeded to Scottsville, Kentucky, following the GPS to a piece of land with no address, just coordinates. All went well, and the long-awaited day arrived. Both our hosts were glad to see us, as it had been 17 years since our last meeting, and much had happened. Sherry and Billy made up for lost time as Robert and Larry went to breakfast in town, a few minutes and winding roads away. When they returned, we donned our solar eclipse shades and waited. Robert set up the projection box. Taking a few pictures of the solar image, he described to the others what they were seeing. This included the few sunspots that were visible in the middle of the disk and on one edge. Yes, those little dots are not artifacts of the paper or lenses. They are storms on the sun, big as the entire Earth. Finally, the eclipse began. Slowly, the moon ate a chip of the sun's outer edge. Little by little, it chewed a bigger piece until the image looked like a crescent moon. We all took a moment to leave the comfort of the shade trees and look directly at the spectacle occurring 200,000 miles overhead. In Michigan, our friends were watching too. A picture through the solar filtering material showed a similar sight. The difference, not noticeable except to a trained observer, was that the moon was tracking off-center that far north. It would never cover the sun completely at Michigan's latitude this day. Meanwhile, down south, the eclipse was causing interesting observations. The leaves overhead were acting like pinhole cameras, casting crescent images on the ground. Night insects were buzzing. Birds were going to roost for the short night that was coming. The air was getting cooler, and the light from the extinguishing sun was dimming to twilight conditions. Looking up through filtered glasses, the last direct rays of the sun poked through the mountains and valleys on the moon's edge. The diamond ring effect was awesome. The totality, a hole in the sky, and the sun's outer atmosphere, the corona, was blazing into vision. With eyes uncovered, we viewed the heavens as we had never before. Stars and planets brightly shined in the midday sky. The sun was gone, and all that was left was a dark black spot outlined with a ring of fire and an eerie glow. It was humbling to know that without advanced warning of what was happening, we might have thought that the world was ending. We could imagine how earlier people would have shot burning arrows into the sky to relight the sun's familiar fire. Soon it was all over. The shadow had passed. The sun returned, and we retired to the chairs, as animals that had been stirring rested in the comfort that life could resume. The sunlight grew steadily brighter, the hot, humid weather bore down, and the year and a half of waiting was finished. We had seen what only 1 in 1,000 have ever seen. It was time to move forward again to the next event that God had planned for us to witness. Maybe just another day of activity to glorify His wonderful presence in our life. The mundane, so to speak, had come upon us again. But it wasn't quite as mundane. We had seen a little of how big our God is. We had seen a little of how well regulated His universe behaves. We had witnessed a special event on His calendar. Maybe we understood for real that His calendar included us.